phrase, "what is old is new again," has been used so many times in the past and will now be used again. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. In this video, there is no real story. Well, actually, there kinda is. We will be discussing the reopening of what was once Mosaics Central Farmers plant near Crystal Springs, Florida, and the possible traffic increase that could be brought back to CSX rails in the surrounding area. But first, we should, and will, because I'm the one making the video, discuss what trains ran prior to the closing and what processes those trains aided in to see what trains could possibly return. To begin, let's see what the plant was used for under Mosaic's ownership. Many rail fans before have referred to Central Farmers, also known as CF Industries, as a phosphate mine, which wouldn't be correct. CF Industries, like Mosaic New Wales, is a phosphate processing plant. The finished phosphate that CSX ships by rail to customers is not what comes out of the ground. They have processing plants like these, so phosphate which is mined in CSX's Bone Valley region, also referred to as wet rock phosphate, can be mixed with other raw materials to make the finished product DAP fertilizer or diammonium phosphate fertilizer. Another name for this final product is dry rock phosphate, which is then shipped out to customers up north or overseas. Mosaic's New Wales plant is the main shipper of DAP. New Wales was at one time reported to be the largest phosphate processing plant in the world. It may still be. New Wales transports finished DAP by rail to Tampa ports such as Rockport, East Tampa, Big Bend, and Port Manatee, just to name a few. The larger unit trains that New Wales sends out are for customers up north. These can be spotted on the main line under IDs such as K810, K812, K814, K850, K854, K856, K200, and K226, all loaded DAP fertilizer trains bound for customers north of the Sunshine State, all symboled differently depending on destinations or railroads that are to receive the trains. Now back to CF Industries. This is basically a substantially smaller version of New Wales, but they would do the same things. However, contrary to New Wales, CF wouldn't ship their finished product northward by rail on unit trains. So how would they ship it? Well, that's where this train, CSX 0825, comes in. This used to be a daily local from the port of Tampa to CF Industries and back. The train coming out of Tampa would consist of jumbo-covered hoppers and tank cars. The amount of each of these would vary day by day, but that's how the consist would normally look. Headed to the plant, the hoppers would be empty, but the tank cars would be loaded with ammonia. This is what I believe to have been one of the raw materials which would be chemically mixed with the raw phosphate to make DAP. There were likely other chemicals involved, and you could see those on extra trains to or from Central from time to time. Then when 0825 would make it to the plant, the ammonia would be unloaded, then the hoppers loaded with the finished product, DAP. Then they would return to the port of Tampa with the phosphate loads, where they would be loaded aboard ships and sent off to overseas customers. So that's how the finished product was shipped from Central. But where did the raw phosphate which they would mix up chemically come from? That's where these trains come in. Another action booster in Plant City, it would be these phosphate trains which would bring the mined up earth to the plant. In fact, this was the main purpose of the Plant City subdivision, which is the second track being used here. Starting in Plant City, the Plant City sub would connect with the Valrico subdivision in the Bone Valley at a location called Welcome Junction. From there, the mine switchers could continue toward the operational phosphate mines in the Bone Valley, such as South Fort Meade and Four Corners, to pick up more wet rock phosphate. So trains like these headed towards Central Farmers would be loaded, and trains headed the other way would be empty, running back south for another load. These trains, however, would be unpredictable and had no regular time slot. 0825 was about the only one of these trains that you could set your watch to and have a chance of getting it right. Even then, however, they had changed 825's regular time a number of instances over its years serving the plant. So let's put this all together into a somewhat understandable sentence. Phosphate trains would pick up newly mined phosphate in the Bone Valley. Then they would bring it north to Central Farmers, where it would be chemically mixed with the ammonia or other raw materials which 0825 or other small trains would bring to the plant. Then, after creating the final product, it would be loaded aboard 0825's covered hoppers, then brought back to the port of Tampa, loaded onto ships, and then sent overseas to customers awaiting. Of course, a lot of this is speculation that I have put together over my years of observations and experiences. Obviously, the process was something almost exactly like this, but it may not be 100% accurate. And 0825, though the primary power was general purpose Jeep locomotives, they would sometimes use 6-axle locomotives, sometimes even including a foreign power. If no power was available or it was the easiest to use, they would sometimes throw ethanol or other Tampa-based road power onto 0825, since when the train's duties were done, they would simply return to Tampa later that night. However, in late 2017, either because they didn't need it or it wasn't financially beneficial, Mosaic closed the plant down. There it sat abandoned for almost a year and a half after that, before Anuvia Plant Nutrients, an agricultural company that also creates fertilizer, was looking for a new location to accompany their existing Zellwood, Florida facility and meet their growing demand. And after stumbling upon Plant City, they said, hey, we want this. So they took it. And over the last about 8 months or so, they have invested over $50 million and partnered with Mosaic to convert and repurpose the plant to suit their own needs. So, good news, right? More rail traffic for Central Florida, right? Well, we hope so. Obviously, there will be a rail customer, since that was one of their main requirements for the new location. But how the plant will be served by CSX is still a mystery. In Anuvia's video about this reopening, they were stated to be a company that makes, quote, environmentally friendly fertilizer. Now, what the difference is between the fertilizer that Anuvia makes compared to what Mosaic makes is unknown. There may not be a difference, but the question does arise because they are spending a substantial amount of money to convert the plant. Also stated in the video, however, was that when the plant does begin production, they are expected to produce 1.2 million tons of finished fertilizer per year. Doing some quick math, that equals somewhere between 20 to 30 car loads a day. Of course, that is assuming that the plant is at maximum production or more, and all product is shipped by rail. If this is the case, 20 to 30 cars was roughly the amount of hoppers which 825 would carry each day. Of course, the amount fluctuated day by day, but still around the same amount of traffic. So if I was to make a personal guess, I would say that operations at least similar to days past would return when the plant reopens, but we must remember, this is a whole new company coming on the scene here. Although no matter how this goes down, this is all around beneficial. The city of Plant City will be benefiting greatly from this, because almost 135 jobs will either be reinstated or created for new people. The plant is also a big economic driver for the city, and then, of course, the rail fans are happy, because there will, hopefully, be a little more train traffic because of this. But of course, it's the railroad, so there's no way to accurately predict, even then, what will happen. And in CSX's age of precision scheduled railroading, it's all the more unpredictable. It was announced not too long ago that the plant was expected to be online by the end of August this year. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. If you don't get any other updates of this reopening from other rail fans, you'll eventually get another sometime from me. And actually, I got one for you right now. By the time I'm finishing the editing of this video, I heard about this. The Plant City Local 0709 made a special trip to the Anuvia plant yesterday, August 20th, to drop off 2 covered hoppers to the plant. But because of both switches into the plant being red tagged and out of service, they couldn't drop off the loads. So they're going to try again on the 21st. Hopefully this won't be the regular amount that they get, but again, we'll just have to wait and see, because they may not be completely in production yet. So be sure to stick around, and until next time, this is Kotabeaner, and I'll see you next time on the Sunshine State Rails.